This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers, LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. Means we're brought to you by Rouse's Markets. Got Jacob Beck and Jordan Kitchens back there on the ones and twos. And lots to do over the next couple hours. Appreciate you hanging with us as we're working towards the weekend on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. A Billy Embody coming up in 30 minutes. The Bayou Splash going to be massive this weekend in terms of recruiting implications. Billy Embody has got a recruiting prediction machine pick in for Jonah Williams. We'll tell you who that is to, and why Billy feels that way. We'll talk about that at 1:30. Got some college baseball news to get to. The end of this hour, Pete Futek from College Football News is going to jump aboard at 2 o'clock to talk about Big Ten Media Days. You kind of might roll your eyes and go, Big Ten Media Days, who cares? Well, LSU plays two Big Ten teams this year. They open with one in the opener, and then UCLA will come here a couple of weeks later. So two opponents of LSU's prominently featured at Big Ten Media Days this week up in Indianapolis. So we'll talk to Pete Futek about that, as well as Michigan's future and what things may look like for Ohio State this year as well. So we'll talk all things Big Ten with Pete coming up at 2 o'clock. And then Luke Johnson at 2:30 after the conclusion of Saints practice, which is wrapped up. Dennis Allen meeting with the media right this very minute. And we'll also hear what he has heard from the players and hear some firsthand knowledge of Saints practice as well from Luke. So we'll get to all that when he's freed up here in about an hour and a half. So we'll get off and running here. I made a decision. Made a decision today. It is July. The Saints are in day 2 of training camp. And I'm going to have a positive segment on the Saints here today. We're going to put on our black and gold glasses. We're going to feel the positivity. We're not going to disparage anyone, anything. We're not going to talk salary cap or roster age or any of these things that may be concerns down the road. We're going to talk positively right now about Derek Carr and this Saints offense. Derek Carr met with the media yesterday, entering his second season as the quarterback of the Saints, and had a number of things to say. Talked about Alvin Kamara and how much of a pro Kamara has been, and talked about a couple of his other teammates. But the bite that stood out to me the most was Derek Carr talking about acclimating to a new franchise and a new coaching staff and a new cast of teammates, and how that went as opposed to the routine and the familiarity he had with the Raiders, whether that was in Oakland or Las Vegas. And this is what Carr had to say about year one in New Orleans.
I definitely feel more comfortable with just organization, the city, the team. You know, it's like I said, it took longer to get used to than I thought it would. I thought being in the league, 10 years, now 11, it would happen faster. That really didn't matter. You change organizations. It's a learning curve. It really is, especially for the family just aspect of it. That was probably the hardest part. But this offseason has been great because I've been doing things with my teammates. Going out to eat, having a whole bunch of guys at the house. Cooking them steaks. It just felt like that family atmosphere that I was just used to. And they did a great job. The guys did a great job of just opening their arms and helping me get through that process last year. But this year was just, I don't want to say it's easy, but it was just more comfortable for sure.
I get that. Do I think the fact that Derek Carr didn't cook steaks for his teammates enough and his kids didn't have a ton of friends or actually know what street they lived on last summer, do I think that cost the Saints 3 wins last year? I don't think it cost the Saints 3 wins. I don't think that's some sort of panacea that you would throw over everything here. But I do understand moving across the country to a foreign place that you've never been before, having a big family like Derek Carr does and getting them situated, not really knowing your teammates as well as you have in the past and having that rapport with them, having that line of communication that was so easy potentially with guys you had been with 3, 4, 5 years, and now you've been with none of these guys for any. I understand that. And the statistics would suggest that Derek Carr did get more comfortable as the season went on. Now, it wasn't MVP-worthy stuff, and it isn't like it was against the best teams in the league, but he did play better later in the season. Now, I think some of that had to do with familiarity and getting things moving a little bit with some guys that he was more comfortable with, and I also think it was because he was healthier. He was hurt the first month of the season. He was hurt. And finally, they sat him down and said, you can't play. Like, he was just too banged up to go out there. And he got back more quickly than we thought, quite honestly. And Jameis Winston's time was very, very short-lived there. But he was hurt and trying to play through it. When he got healthier the last 5 games, it started on December the 10th. They played Carolina in the Dome. They played the Giants in the Dome. They went to L.A., they went to Tampa, and then they hosted Atlanta. Those were the last 5 games they played. In those 5 games, he completed 74% of his passes. He threw for 223 yards per game, which isn't a ton, but he was efficient in his passing. He threw 14 touchdown passes and only 2 interceptions. And the Saints, over that span, averaged 29 points per game. Now, that's skewed a little bit, and I'll pull the curtain back. Like, they scored 28 against Carolina, which was legit. Carolina was the worst team in the league. They scored 24 on the Giants. Look, the Giants weren't going to score. DeVito's terrible. Like, I think that was a fine offensive day. They scored 22 at the Rams. That game, they were behind. I think a lot of it may have been empty yards, some empty points, but they did score 22 points. They scored 23 at Tampa, and then they blew Atlanta out in the last game and scored 48 points, which does skew this a little bit. I'm not trying to manipulate the numbers here, but 28, 24, 22, 23, 48, when you consider what the Saints have been on defense for the last 5-6 years under Dennis Allen, like, that's going to win you a lot of games. And so if you look at those statistics, 74% completion, 14 touchdowns, 2 picks, 29 points per game, well, 74% completion would have led the NFL. I'm not suggesting you can take an entire 1 month and extrapolate it out for 17 games and voila, you have it, but that would have led the NFL in completion percentage. 14 touchdowns and 2 picks, anyone will take that. And then the 29 points per game, only the Dolphins and the Cowboys averaged more than that over the course of a season. So if you really want to get down to brass tacks here and look at the last 5 games the Saints played, it was pretty good on offense. I'm not going to say it was elite. I'm not going to say it was revolutionary or transformative. I'm not trying to overstate things. But the Saints offense was plenty functional the last 5 games. You beat Carolina, you beat the Giants, you blew out Atlanta, you didn't play well enough to beat the Rams, and Tampa is what it was. But it was not terrible, those last 5 games. Derek Carr, while you look at these rankings that have the Saints quarterback ranking at 28th or 29th, I don't buy that. And I have consistently said that on this show when those rankings come out. One had J.J. McCarthy ranked ahead of Derek Carr. Give me a freaking break. No shot. I see Anthony Richardson routinely put above Derek Carr. No. I'm not putting Derek Carr in the conversation with Mahomes and Burrow and Allen, even Rodgers, even though we missed him last year. Like, he's not that guy. I know that. He's not Justin Herbert. I would take Jalen Hurts. Dak Prescott's been more productive. Like, sure, there are plenty of quarterbacks that I would take over Derek Carr. But he's firmly middle of the pack. This is something that I've said a lot of times over the course of Derek Carr's year in New Orleans. Like, that baseball stat, wins above replacement, WAR, means you've got an average player as a baseline. You're either plus that or you're minus that. If you're a 6-7 WAR player, plus 6 or 7, you're an elite player. If you're -2, you're probably a 4th outfielder. I think Derek Carr's a 0 WAR. Like, he's the baseline for the NFL. There are going to be in a given year 10 guys a lot worse than him. There are going to be 10 guys that are better than him. But the Saints aren't trying to win by rolling up 38 points per game like they did when Drew Brees was the quarterback. If you're trying to paint pie in the sky, sunshine and roses, pictures for this Saints team, and how did they win 10 games? The defense is probably top 7 in the league, and the offense is probably 15th. That's how they would do this. And if we're being honest with ourselves, Derek Carr, in the right offense, if the offensive line comes together and Kendre Miller stays healthy and Alvin Kamara finds a little resurgence and you find a third quarterback and Juwan Johnson comes back, it's a lot of ifs, but they could be the 15th best offense in the league. Like that is doable. And there's proof in New Orleans that Derek Carr 8 months ago did this. And before you suggest, well, Carolina's the worst team in the league, the Giants are a complete disaster, Atlanta's a dumpster fire, they had quit by that point, the coach got fired, Tampa's not any good anyway. They got a lot of those teams on the schedule this year too. So there is reason to find some optimism. This is it. Derek Carr suggests in a quote, look, I wasn't quite as comfortable as I thought I would be in year 11, year 10, even though I've been here around along. Being in New Orleans was different. My family's settled, and I've got the guys over to the house, and we're on the same page. You know what? Maybe there's not a yelling match back and forth between the offensive line and Derek Carr last year if there was a better relationship that had been forged off the field with quality time together. Maybe things are a little more palatable in the huddle when things aren't going great on the field. I don't know. Tell me I'm reaching. That's fine. But I'm not making these numbers up. They are what they are. I think Derek Carr is fine. He's fine. They've just got to do everything around him to elevate the offense as a whole. All right, Jordan, you've listened to me go on for 10 minutes now. You're not the biggest Derek Carr supporter in the land. How do we feel about the fact that his last 5 games were better? He's healthy now. Maybe the Saints offense will be better.
You know, we're trying to stay positive, right? You know, when we walked in, was like, we know we could be positive today about Derek Carr. So I'm going to try my best to be positive because it's taking everything in me. It's like being allergic to milk and eating ice cream. So this is what
lactose intolerance here. You got Carr intolerance.
Yeah, I'm a little. It makes my stomach upset. Derek Carr makes my stomach very upset. But I mean, yes, he improved down the stretch. He did play better down the stretch. But you can't also say we was kind of out of it for a little bit. And then he's like, oh well, we're kind of making a fake push a little bit.
And those 4 touchdowns in Week 18 against Atlanta aren't getting you all,
but
all
it's
warm
like,
and
at
fuzzy
that point,
inside.
The reason why is because at that point, we didn't control our destiny no more.
You were done.
We were done. So it was like we had every opportunity to get us in there, and we didn't do it. So that's why I'm like, yeah, he improved, but ultimately we didn't get over the hump. And we can't say Tampa wasn't like world beaters.
No.
So that's why I'm kind of sick because Tampa, they're about what with us. And Baker Mayfield signed for a lot less money last year.
Yep.
So when you look at that, we did beat them later down the stretch, but this is like, man, we lost the control to control our destiny.
Derek Carr, 3 touchdown passes or more in 3 of the last 4 games. Hadn't done that at all previous to that. So maybe he found something.
All.
Hadn't done it at all until
That's crazy.
until
3 touchdowns
until December the 17th.
Like, what?
Right around Christmas. It's a Christmas present for all the Saints fans.
That's ruined my Christmas.
All right, let's talk some college football. What if and how does LSU become a college football playoff contender? ESPN wrote a story about it. I'll tell you what I think about it coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com is the website. Football season is right around the corner. Make your home the place to watch the big games. Audio Video Security Solutions, Mitchell Fisher and his team can do that for you. There are so many things that they can do that maybe you weren't even aware were possible. Like they can mount your television, they can supply the television as well, put that big screen in. And sometimes you got a game watching party. There are a few people in the kitchen, a few people in the living room, maybe somebody on the back patio for whatever reason. If that's the case, sometimes you got 2 different TVs going, the volumes aren't synced, you're talking over each other, there's just dysfunction in the audio world. Audio Video Security Solutions can help you with that. If you get surround sound, you can sync all the televisions to one sound, and then it's cohesive throughout the house for your game watch party. I know that annoys me when one room goes nuts and then trying to check it out from the living room. Fix that. Audio Video Security Solutions can help you do it, and all of it can be done right there at the touch of a button on your phone. It's fantastic, fantastic stuff. And if I can figure it out, I know you all can figure it out because I don't know anything about technology. Mitchell Fisher and his team hooked us up at the Palmer House, and we have loved it ever since moving in. They're the People's Choice Award winner for Best Vendor at the Parade of Homes. You can check them out on Instagram, AVSS_BR, and always online. It's Audio Video Security Solutions at AVSSLA.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency. The light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR. Day 2 of Saints training camp. Ross Jackson has our camp report, and 2 more big-time prospects committed to being at the Bayou Splash this weekend. We'll talk about it 3 to 6. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Shout out to Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. We'll get a more in-depth Saints practice report and report from the media sessions that followed from Luke Johnson coming up at 2:30 this afternoon. Let's talk some college football, specifically some LSU football here. ESPN's got a piece up today by Bill Connolly, who writes his college football ifs list, how contenders can come together. I won't bury the lead. We'll just go straight to LSU, who he does list as a contender in this list, and he's got some ifs. If these things happen, LSU could be a threat to make a push into the college football playoff and deep into it. The first is if Garrett Nussmeier has a skill core, which in this point he's talking about wide receivers. He says that you got to replace Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. Kyron Lacey's a potential star. Liberty transfer C.J. Daniels was incredible in Conference USA, and LSU doesn't usually struggle to produce big-time receivers, but the receivers are only semi-proven, and the running backs are less proven. My concern level with wide receiver is if we're going like 10 is a 12-alarm emergency and 0 I'm asleep. It's like a 3. Like, I think Kyron Lacey's a good player. I did go back last week, kind of reintroducing myself to football full steam ahead, and watch C.J. Daniels highlights from Liberty. Like, he looks to be a really good playmaker. I mean, some of that stuff, I don't really care who you're playing against, the quickness and the catching the ball out in front of yourself with your hands, and I think he's going to be a good player. I know Chris Hilton's got a ton of potential and great speed. Mason Taylor factors into this discussion for sure. And then, you've got a list of guys with Shelton Sampson and Kyle Parker and a number of guys that could come on and help you out at wide receiver. So I'm not overly concerned with that. Yes, if LSU's going to make a run, their skill position players are going to have to play really well. But there's not a huge question there in my mind. The second if for LSU is if Joe Sloan's ready. It reads, when head coach Brian Kelly lost offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock to Notre Dame, he justifiably promoted Sloan, last year's quarterback coach. If he's good at calling plays as he was at getting the most from Daniels, LSU's offense will be just fine. I'm glad that Joe Sloan got a test run there in December into the bowl game so that he could kind of get a game plan together, coach the quarterback he's going to be coaching this year throughout the month, getting ready, putting it in, and then calling plays on game day. LSU played well on offense against Wisconsin. I don't know that it was quite as smooth as it had been with Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas out there, but it was good. And so I'm glad he got that experience. And my concern level on Joe Sloan is somewhere around a 3 or 4 as well. It's certainly not over 5. I think that LSU's wide receivers and Joe Sloan are going to be just fine. I'm not overly concerned about that. So you go to the next if. If Blake Baker figures out Harold Perkins Jr., Baker left his gig as Missouri's defensive coordinator to become the best paid assistant in the country. Baker's defenses are aggressive, physical, and fun, but he's inheriting the pieces of a defense that ranked just 52nd in defensive SP+, which is obviously not very good. My concern on LSU's ability to use Harold Perkins is like a 2. Like, I'm not under the impression that Harold Perkins is going to go get 13 sacks this year. He had a pretty productive year last year. The numbers were fairly similar to his freshman year. Now, he didn't take over games like he did 2 of the games with Ole Miss and Missouri and Arkansas his freshman year, but he did have a big play against Missouri, and like he's a factor. He will be a factor, and I don't necessarily think that there's some sort of if implied here. Harold Perkins is going to be on the field. He's going to make some plays behind the line of scrimmage. He's going to play more at inside backer than he did this past year, and he's going to be productive. He's going to be fine. I don't see this as a fit for the ifs here. I don't see Harold Perkins as a guy who is going to go from whatever he was last year to someone who revolutionizes the defense this year. I just don't. I think he was fine last year, and I think he's going to be really good this year. I don't think there's as much variance there as Bill Connolly does. And then you've got, if the pass defense defends the pass. Well, now you've got my attention. I'm not worried about Kyron Lacey and C.J. Daniels and Chris Hilton and Kyle Parker and Aaron Anderson and Shelton Sampson and like all these guys, Xavier Thomas. Like, I'm not worried about them. I'm not really worried about Joe Sloan. And I'm not really worried about Harold Perkins. Like, I feel okay about all of that. Pass defense, now you got my attention. We went out there last year for fall camp, and LSU absolutely annihilated its defense in every red zone period we saw, and all the one-on-one periods we saw, like everything that we saw, which was not all of camp, but what we were allowed to see, the offense just carved LSU up. And there was a part of me that went, well, some of these drills are designed for the offense to have the advantage. Like when you go one-on-one wide receiver versus corner you just got a quarterback and those two guys running, like that is designed for the receiver to win. There's so much room. There are no other players out in the route. There's no help for the corner. He's got the entire field to defend. Like, you complete a lot of those, I get it. And in red zone, Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, they're going to win their fair share of reps. Like, I was concerned. I picked Florida State to win the opener last year, but I didn't know that what we were in for. So I think some people gave me some credit for seeing that early. Take the credit away. I deserve no credit. I did not think LSU would be the worst defense in the history of the school. So that gives me no credit. But I don't want to see that again this fall. I want to see better competition from LSU's corners, because the corners on this roster should be better than the ones on last year's roster, and the wide receivers on this year aren't going to be as good as the wide receivers last year. So I'm going to need to see some serious improvement, because you're not exactly opening up with Air Force's passing attack. You're opening up with Lincoln Riley, who's been one of the most prolific passing game coach of the last 7 years in college football. When you've got 3 guys holding Heisman trophies, you get to wear that mantle. So this one, I'm completely in agreement. The writing ranked LSU ranked a dismal 107th in the country in yards allowed per drop back last year. Most of the secondary returns, and Kelly added Jordan Gilbert from Texas A&M and Ohio State corner Jair Brown, among others, from the transfer portal. How long might it take for Baker to create something more effective from these ingredients? This I'm all in on. Yes. If LSU can't cover any better than they did last year, just pencil them in for 4 or 5 losses. Just pencil them in. Because you're not going to be able to bail yourself out like you did against Missouri. You quite honestly bailed yourself out against Texas A&M and Arkansas too. Remember, Arkansas scored every time they had the football, save the last drive when time ran out in Tiger Stadium. The same Arkansas who less than a month later fired their offensive coordinator. They scored every time down the field. A&M had a 2-score lead on LSU with its third-team quarterback in the game after their coach was going to be fired. Was fired. He was fired. So, this has got to be a lot better. And my concern, I gave you 3, 4, 2 on the previous. It's a 9 here. Doesn't mean they can't fix it, but that's my concern level. Not my panic level, my concern level. They've got to get a lot better here. Now, they did this exercise for a ton of other teams, and I'm not going to go into all those, but one thing I did find interesting is, of course, they're talking about Oregon and Ohio State and Georgia and Bama at the top of this article. Yes, Texas shows up in this article. Ole Miss and Notre Dame do as well. They include Penn State in this, Florida State in this. Missouri is included in this story, as is Tennessee. Michigan, the defending champs without Jim Harbaugh, are included. So is Clemson. Miami is in this. What if this goes right? They could be a contender. You know who's not included in this? USC. Not in the piece. Texas A&M is. They're in year 1 of a new coach. They're included in this. USC is not. That is surprising to me. Not that I'm suggesting I think USC is a playoff team. Not that I'm suggesting I think USC is going to win the national championship, but I don't think Missouri is going to win it either. I don't think A&M is going to win it either. I don't think A&M is going to the playoff. But they're in this, and USC is not. We're going to have a conversation with a USC beat writer tomorrow who was up in Indianapolis for SEC Media Days, for Big Ten Media Days this week, and we'll get some thoughts on how things are feeling in Southern California, but it did pique my interest as I was kind of perusing through this story that USC was nowhere to be found. Interesting as we get ready to start prepping for LSU and Southern Cal from Vegas on Labor Day weekend. All right, our Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's. When we come back, Billy Embody, LSU Football, the Bayou Splash is coming up. Plus, he put a recruiting prediction machine in for Jonah Williams. Where did he put that prediction into? And why? We'll talk to Billy Embody coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Safety is a big deal in the bathroom, especially for folks as they age. If there's someone in your life that you love who is aging but wants to stay in that house, maybe lives alone, make the bathroom a less hazardous place. Non-slip floors. guardrails and handrails around the shower, toilet, tub areas, walk-in tubs, benches in the shower. All these things could help make a loved one remain safe in the bathroom, which can be a very, very hazardous spot. Call David Duvall and his team. They do this kind of stuff all the time. Tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you. You can get $1,000 off of your deal. Go to onebathandclosets.com. Check out the pictures of their great work. Check out the reviews from their fantastic clients. And get that free consultation. Doesn't cost you anything to talk to David Duvall and his team. And you actually get $1,000 back when you tell them the Hunt Palmer Show sent you to One Bath and Closets. Check them out online. onebathandclosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off F-150. $10,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends.
On Friday's OTB, to get you ready for the weekend, we'll have a little day 2 recap of Saints training camp, some news leaking out of the massive Bayou Splash recruiting weekend. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
As I mention quite often here, I spend a good amount of time over at the Bengal Tiger, part of the On3 Network. Shay Dixon, Billy Embody, Matthew Bruni. I'm checking out their stories, all the information they've got on the message board. It's fantastic stuff over there. And one thing that I'm picking up over the last couple of weeks here is that there's a ton of demand for goggles. There's a massive demand for kickboards, puddle jumpers. Sunscreen is flying off the shelves. People are ecstatic about the Bayou Splash. I don't know if any of these people were invited to Bayou Splash, and sure, in fact, I know that they're not invited, but it's a big deal for LSU football, and it is coming up this weekend. Billy Embody and the crew are all over it over there at the Bengal Tiger, and Billy joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Billy, what is the Bayou Splash?
Well, it is a pool party for recruits that LSU hosts. It's become one of the recruiting events of the entire year, quite honestly, for recruitniks to follow, in particular LSU ones. LSU has kind of built this up into an end of the summer party. You get Brian Kelly and his staff a little bit more kind of not in the full-blown recruiting pitch mode. It's just a lot of hanging out. These are a lot of prospects, in particular in the 2025 class, that have already been to LSU. So they know the pitch. They know that they're needed, and they're going to get one last push from LSU staff before the dead period happens next week, and they get into their own fall camp, and the recruits go back to their high schools, and the season begins to get a push in front of LSU's coaching staff and try to shift some of these 2025 and 2026 recruitments.
So you mentioned a dead period coming up. Help us out with that time frame. They've got the Bayou Splash this weekend, and there's a dead period that is for how long? That doesn't mean that recruits can't commit or anything during that. That just means that LSU can't contact them, obviously. But what does that timeline look like as fall camp is a week away?
Yeah, next week, I believe it's Tuesday, the dead period begins. So these coaching staffs will, August 1st. So that's when the dead period hits, and then those coaches won't be able to host prospects again until 48 hours before a home game on campus. So you can't do it for neutral site games that occur in August or September 1st, Labor Day weekend. So those are kind of when you can start hosting again is that Labor Day weekend, but only if it's on your campus. And then September 1, it's a full-blown evaluation. Coaches can go out, recruits can go to college campuses. It's back to being the free-for-all, so to speak. So August 1st, the dead period kicks in.
All right, so we know that LSU's class right now, as far as commitments go, is full of headliners. Who are the headliners for this weekend that LSU's expecting in Baton Rouge?
Yeah, LSU's not, unfortunately, going to get Bryce Underwood back on campus. There was a death in the Bellevue, Michigan community. A former player passed away, so he's attending those funeral arrangements and with a heavy heart. So he won't be in town. But Harlan Berry, JT Lindsey, the two blue chip running backs committed to LSU, will be back in town. Tyler Miller, the Mississippi prospect, who's a on-3 top 50 prospect and one of the best interior linemen in the country, will be back. Same goes for Carius Kern, another elite offensive lineman out of the state of Arkansas. LSU is going to get Zion Williams, Brandon Brown, Damian Shanklin, who are their three commitments on the defensive line. And then Jesse Harold, their four-star edge commit, also won't be able to make it. And then they'll get their linebackers, Charles Ross, Keelan Moses back. DJ Pickett, the five-star newly minted LSU commit, will be on campus, as will be Jace Thomas, the four-star Destrehan safety. So a really strong group of commitments that'll be there to recruit for the Tigers.
Right now, all eyes kind of on Jonah Williams, kind of after DJ Pickett, who committed in the past week. Jonah Williams, big-time safety out of Texas. You put in your recruiting prediction in today. Tell us about it and why.
Yeah, Jonah Williams is an interesting prospect. I've always felt this is an LSU-Texas A&M battle, and there are going to be schools that have and will continue to feel good about their stance with Jonah Williams, who's the consensus number one safety in the country. If the rankings ended today, he'd be a 5-star plus, which means he's a 5-star for every single recruiting service. And he's out of Galveston Ball. He plays for Blake Baker's high school coach. But Ball is also considered to be an A&M high school. Mike Evans went there. He's a big supporter of the Ball program. So there's a lot of pressure on Jonah Williams to end up in College Station. But LSU's been pushing a lot of the right buttons here, both in baseball and football. Jay Johnson's involved in his recruitment, as is Blake Baker, Jake Olson, the safeties coach, and many others. It's all hands on deck for LSU when it comes to Jonah Williams, and it has been. And they prioritized him from the get-go. Now, DJ Pickett, we saw that happen with him being prioritized by Corey Raymond from the start, and it paid off. Blake Baker did the same with Jonah Williams with his ties. Jake Olson, moved in on that recruitment as well as the safeties coach. And LSU's been firmly in the mix for him ever since. And from what I'm hearing, at least going into the month of August, which is going to be a lead up to his commitment date on August 24th, LSU has positioned themselves very well. And so if they can keep the momentum that they have, and getting him back on campus is going to be a huge deal as well, I feel like LSU is going to be tough to beat in this recruitment based on what I'm hearing. Now, we will see if Texas A&M in particular makes a big move late in this recruitment before he does decide on August 24th. But again, LSU has played a lot of the cards right in this recruitment, and I had heard that he was potentially moving up his decision, and I've heard LSU has a really good situation both on the field for him and let's just say off the field as well with NIL lined up. So if those come together and LSU can hang on, they'll get yet another number one prospect at a position come August 24th when he makes his decision.
Let's look at LSU at safety right now. Major Burns and Sage Ryan will play their last year in college football this coming fall. Jordan Gilbert is an upperclassman. And then you look at some of the younger safeties that LSU has on campus, whether it's Jordan Allen, Deshaun Spears, Joel Rogers, Kylan Jackson. Depending on where Juwan Johnson fits in, I think he's probably more of a corner or nickel. But either way, like they've got a lot of young safeties. Where would Jonah Williams fit in there?
He is extremely talented. I think it'd be tough to keep him off the field early, and he can play, kind of a strong safety, roll him down into the box. He's shown the ability that he can run in coverage and keep up athletically. I mean, he's a big kid. He's 6'3", 205, but his testing numbers really backed up that he can play at that size at the SEC level. So I'm thinking that if he ends up at LSU, like I at least as of now think, he's going to be able to challenge right away for playing time. And I love Deshaun McBride. I love some of the young safety talent they have, but Jonah Williams is a really elite prospect and could very well end up being a day one starter.
This may be a foolish question, but I'm going to ask you anyway because this is your area of expertise. When we talk about NIL, I think a lot of people who follow LSU look at A&M, look at Phil Knight in Oregon, look at some of these schools and think that LSU probably can't keep up. Based on your conversations with people in the industry, how does LSU stack up in the big picture in terms of NIL?
Yeah, they're really making a lot of moves this offseason and getting far more aligned with the NIL pitch and the NIL support. We saw the Bayou Traditions move to get connected with TAF, which is probably one of the most important moves that has happened under Brian Kelly's tenure and will benefit so many student athletes and help the coaches out a little bit too in recruiting for sure. That's probably the biggest move that's happened since Brian Kelly's been here. And people are now seeing when you give these coaches the resources, they can land players like Bryce Underwood. They can land a Harlan Berry. They can go into Arkansas and take Darius Kern and go into Mississippi and take Tyler Miller. And you saw Derek Meadows, top 50 prospect, commit to LSU this past week. So a really good situation is unfolding now with NIL and LSU. And I think we're going to be really seeing some continued improvements over the coming years in that respect.
I cannot emphasize this enough. If you want recruiting coverage, this weekend's going to be a big one. No better spot to find it than the Bengal Tiger, part of the On3 Network. Billy, Shay, and the folks will be all over it, and we appreciate some time here, Billy. Enjoy the weekend of the Splash.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
He's Billy Embody from On3 over at the Bengal Tiger. We'll come back. Some very, very interesting news in the world of college baseball. Doesn't pertain for LSU, but I'm going to kind of walk you through it anyway. Coming up at the end of this hour. Still got a lot of Saints to get to in hour number 2 as well. So don't go anywhere. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Visit LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino this summer for exciting live sports action. We got the biggest screens around, and ESPN Bet is live in Louisiana. Plus, Pin Play Rewards members can win up to $500 in pin cash every single week. So visit pinplaysports.com/cover5 today and register for your chance to play and win. If you're not a member, get the Pin Play app today. LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino, your live sports headquarters. Bring your crew for all the action. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 877-770-STOP.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, The Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Moscone.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electricity. The light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscone. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that
Matt Moscone inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR. Day 2 of Saints training camp. Ross Jackson has our camp report and 2 more big-time prospects committed to being at the Bayou Splash this weekend. We'll talk about it 3 to 6. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Shout out to the folks at Rouse's looking to do your weekend grocery shopping. No better spot than Rouse's Markets, whether you're in southwest Louisiana, southeast Louisiana, down into the panhandle of Florida. Rouse's can absolutely help you out, and there's a location near you. Download the Rouse's app. You can do your shopping right there on the app. Your personal shopper can go in there and make it happen for you. You pull up right in front of the front door. They walk it right out to your car. You're gone. It's as easy as that. As long as you spend $35, you don't spend an extra cent on the curbside pickup. Rouse's fantastic stores all over the Gulf Coast, and we enjoy ours right next to the house at Burbank and Lee. probably be there tomorrow getting some groceries for the weekend. And so we really appreciate Rouse's for bringing our Thursday shows each and every week. Some interesting news in the college baseball world yesterday as Texas A&M left-hander Ryan Prager decided to spurn the draft and his selection by the Anaheim Angels, Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, as it were, in the third round and go back to school. I tell y'all every year entering the draft, if someone is picked in the first 10 rounds, they're gone. There's a number agreed to. They figured it out. They're going to sign. That's what I tell you every single year around draft time. And so you look at this and you say, well, A&M had a guy go back. What are you talking about? And I'll suggest, that's shocking to me. Shocking. It's not shocking because someone who was drafted didn't sign. That happens every year all the time after the 10th round. The reason is because in the first 10 rounds, every pick is slotted. Now, we discussed yesterday, Tommy White got $700,000 over slot, and Luke Holman got $15K under slot, and Griffin Herring got double his slot. And so that doesn't mean that's how much you're going to sign for, but there is a slot value for every pick. And Ryan Prager got picked 81st overall in the third round. And that pick comes with a slot value of $948,000. $948,000. And so when he doesn't sign, the Angels lose from their draft pool $950,000 that they can't use. That is bad business. You're not saving money to go pay a first rounder. You're not saving money to go back and pay a 16th rounder. You can't use this money if that player doesn't sign. Now you get a compensatory pick that's at the back end of the third round that's worse than the pick that you already made. But you can't use this money. So one of two things in principle happened here. Either the Angels called Ryan Prager and said, hey, we'd like to take you here 81st. And we're going to offer you, I'll lowball it, $950K is the number. We're going to offer you $800,000. And Ryan Prager said yes to that. This is one of the hypotheticals. And they said, okay, send the pick in. We'll offer him $800K when the time comes. Or what happened was the Angels just drafted him and assumed he would sign for the money. Either Ryan Prager, who obviously had cold feet entering the draft, this was known on the A&M side. There was significant chance he was going to return to Texas A&M because he has a Tommy John redshirt year, and he only completed just his sophomore year, and he does have leverage coming back next year for the draft. And he was lukewarm about leaving anyway. But he either agreed to terms and then didn't sign, which is disingenuous, or the Angels just flat screwed up. And I have heard Ryan Prager talk on multiple radio spots and television interviews. He sounds like a wonderful young man. Really level-headed, very mature, always says the right thing. I'm guessing that he did not say, yeah, I'll do that, and then back out on him at the 11th hour. I'm guessing the Angels did a poor job here. You're asking yourself, well, how could a team with the greatest player in the last 25 years in Mike Trout and the greatest talent in the history of the sport, Shohei Ohtani, never sniff the playoffs? Well, how is that possible? Well, probably because they do stuff like this and take their draft pool and lose $1 million out of it because they draft a guy who's not going to sign with them in the third round. Probably that. Yes, I'm a tad salty that Texas A&M is bringing back the top of its rotation with a dynamic lineup, and I'm going to have to sweat them next year in college baseball. There's a bit of me that's salty about that, but that's just good, healthy rivalry fun. The deeper story is how is a Major League Baseball team selecting a third-round pick and not coming to terms with them? That should not happen. And I would venture to guess it will not happen with anybody else in the top 10 rounds of this draft. Maybe A&M came in with a monster NIL offer. Maybe it's more than the slot value of $948,000. I would suggest probably not. Probably not $1 million for a left-handed pitcher. It's possible, but in the event that was possible, Ryan Prager probably would have seen that coming anyway and told him, you know what, lay off and don't draft me. This is incompetence on the Angels, very likely. I'll leave a 7% chance that Prager pulled the rug out from under him. I'll leave 7% there. I'll give you 93% the Angels didn't know what they were doing. That's what I'm thinking. We'll see. New coach, lose Cortez, lose Oshtenbeck. Got to refill the shelves there in the weekend rotation. Yeah, you don't have Braden Montgomery anymore. Hayden Schott's gone. Like, there's some places they've got to rebuild. But it's a really, really strong group of position players, and that guy's the front of their rotation, and he's been there, done that, and threw it really well in Omaha. So, we'll see. I told you all year that I thought A&M's Achilles heel was not having an ace. He kind of looked one like late in the season. LSU beat him, but late in the season, LSU's pretty good. All right, that's it for hour number one. If you missed any of it, you can catch it all on demand. When we come back to start hour number two, we'll talk with Pete Futek, college football news. LSU plays USC and UCLA. They were at the podium yesterday. We'll do it after SportsCenter.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off F-150. $10,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Sports Center.
I'm Doug Brown. Falcons quarterback Kirk Cousins is now medically cleared to practice. Cousins is coming back from a torn right Achilles in Week 8 with the Vikings last season. When he got hurt, he was leading the NFL with 18 touchdown passes. Cousins won't play in Atlanta's 3 preseason games. 49ers offensive lineman Trent Williams is holding out and did not report to training camp. Niners wideout Brandon Ayuk is in camp but not practicing. He's also looking for a new deal. ESPN's Damian Woody.
You take Brandon Ayuk out of this offense is going to look different, very different. And so if Brandon Ayuk, if something happens where he's traded, listen, I can't call the 49ers the favorite in the NFC.
Damian Woody on Get Up. Bills linebacker Von Miller says he probably shouldn't have played last year after a right knee injury from late 2022. Miller says he's now healthy and practicing fully. Flyers winger Travis Konechny signs an 8-year, $70 million contract extension today.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, working towards the weekend. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. A lot of Saints in hour number 2. Luke Johnson from Irvine, California, coming up in 30 minutes. But for now, let's go up to Indianapolis. Big Ten Media Days wrapping up day 3 with the first year from their visitors from the West. Pete Futek is the publisher of College Football News, and talk all things Big Ten with us. Pete, the big floating duck, the biggest news out of Big Ten Media Days?
It's all that matters. I didn't even go. I mean, because there's no point. Because every media days, every single one, every question is talk about, and every answer is work hard. So there's really nothing to these things, except for a big, giant floating duck in the middle of Indianapolis, which absolutely freaking ruled. And I'm totally not joking. Where I have a kid who's looking at colleges, and she has her list in the system and all that, and she just took Oregon off. And I'm like, you know what? Put Oregon back on. Just put Oregon back on. That's a cool place to be. They have a big floating duck.
Dan Lanning said they're going to try to take it on the road this year. When they go to road games, they're going to find a river and put the big duck there. Are you for that?
That's awesome. Of course. Just keep poking the bear. Just keep, of course, there's a lot of, BB guns. I won't go larger than that out there. I'm sure they're going to be fired at this thing at will. But, no, it's pretty cool that they look. But that's kind of what Oregon does. I mean, a million years ago, they put the Joey Harrington for Heisman sign in Times Square, and they're like, oh my gosh, look at this. This is crazy. They change uniforms every 10 minutes. So for whatever, Oregon football and sports might be, they've been about as proactive over the last 25 years as anybody when it comes to marketing their product.
Do you believe their transition to the Big 12 will elevate them? They'll just be kind of the same, which has been pretty good, or you think they'll find it tougher to win as many games?
Oh, all of them will. I mean, Oregon and Washington, USC, UCLA, you're not playing Washington State and Oregon State anymore. I get Purdue and Northwestern and Rutgers aren't, easy, but overall it's going to be harder, especially if you're trying to win 10 games. Same thing for Texas and Oklahoma. Texas is going to be everyone's number 3 going into the season, but you look at that schedule, they're going to lose 2 games at least. And, every single week they could lose to an Arkansas. They could certainly, still lose to an Oklahoma. There's just there's more 50-50 games on the schedule now. And everyone kind of forgets, as good as Texas was last year, they probably should have and could have and would have lost to Kansas State and TCU. They kind of had to pull those things out of the fire. So you don't win as many 50-50 games in the SEC as you do in the Big 12.
I didn't realize this. I mean, it made sense. But we had an OU writer on the day that they joined the SEC officially, and he brought up the fact that they have won half of the Big 12 championships since they joined the league, which is just bananas, and obviously has to refocus things when you get to the SEC. They ain't winning half of the next 18 of these things.
They haven't won half their games this year. I mean, look at their schedule. And we joke, but look at that thing and say any normal team, that's maybe 6-6.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the whole new world they're into. I am still floored. I mean, until they actually kick the ball off, I'm still not going to believe that Texas and Oklahoma are in the SEC. It doesn't. Oklahoma, yes. Texas doesn't make any sense. How Texas isn't in the Big 12 is one of those weird things, business things, which I've never gotten a straight answer to. But it just seems like it. Remember back about 10 years ago, when there's a lot of expansion stuff, the Big Ten threw out that trial balloon. I always assumed those two kids would get together.
Yep.
They just never did, because Texas is a much, much better fit overall for the Big Ten than it is the SEC.
And here they are in the Southeastern Conference. Is USC a fit in the Big Ten?
Yeah, because, I mean, in the new world where they are, because they got the other three teams from the Pac-12. And so now you have the West Coast branch of the Big Ten. So that's it. I mean, that's where the SEC totally screwed this up, where the Big Ten is now coast to coast. And so the whole idea that, well, you know, the Big Two conferences, no. There's the Big Ten, there's about 100 feet, then there's the SEC, and there's another little drop to ACC and Big. Just wait until you see. Yeah, I'm still kind of shocked that this hasn't been out there yet. Wait until LSU and Alabama figures out how much Purdue's about to get paid every year. Like, you think Florida State and Clemson are crying in the ACC? That's coming. That's give it about 2 years, and you're going to hear a whole lot of screaming and yelling about, wait a minute, why are we making? Oh, this is great. We're making $75 million a year, and wait a minute, what? Yeah, Rutgers is making $125 million a year after this all goes. Like, it's going to be, the disparity is so huge when it comes to this. So. Yeah, I guess from a business sense, USC does kind of fit, but it's going to be kind of funky and weird when there's an 11 o'clock East Coast PM kickoff when Rutgers goes out there to USC.
Well, let's go back to that, because I didn't plan for it to go this way, but here we are. I mean, what does that mean on the field in collegiate athletics if the Big Ten is making as much more money than the SEC as you're prognosticating here? Is that going to impact wins and losses?
Probably not. It's a business. It's the business thing when we talk about expansion. That's kind of the thing that everyone kind of misses. Like, well, this team didn't do all that well. And it's not about whether the team did well or not. When you say, okay, where do they expand to? Well, now you have the LA market. You basically have Southern California. You have Seattle. You have Oregon. You basically own the Pacific Northwest if you're the Big Ten. You are coast to coast, and you have all the big markets. What does the SEC have? I mean, they've got Atlanta, okay, and I guess, Dallas is pretty good, but, the Texas, but that's always kind of a mixed market with all the other teams. So, of course, Texas kind of rules Dallas area. And then where are your other markets? St. Louis, I guess, in Missouri, but you don't have the big giant markets. Whereas you look at what the Big Ten has, for whatever New York is, they've got it. Chicago, they've got that. Even Detroit, Minneapolis, and all. So what the Big Ten has is all these markets. That's what's impacting things, because that's really, at the end of the day, where, okay, maybe there is no Rutgers fan base in New York. You can still sell New York as an overarching market, because Michigan does travel there, and Ohio State does travel there, and the big schools do go there, and that does get the New York market for that.
Let's talk about this year. Southern Cal and UCLA are both on LSU's schedule. USC in the opener in Las Vegas, and UCLA comes to Tiger Stadium as part of that home and home, where UCLA won that game a few years ago. Let's talk USC first. Lincoln Riley got his feet on the ground. Are they going to play any defense, and can they replace a Heisman-winning quarterback?
Defense it might not be optional if that offense works. It's so funny how everyone wants Lincoln Riley gone. It's like you forget that if Caleb Williams doesn't yank his hamstring 2 years ago in the Pac-12 championship, they're probably in the college football playoff. And so he has 1 year where it didn't go quite as well as everyone hoped, and now everyone wants him gone. It's like I did this for years to the president of the Jim Harbaugh Apologist Club, where it's like, this guy is still a great head coach. Oh, are you seeing what's happening? These guys just don't become really bad at their jobs. Like between Ryan Day, now is on a hot seat if he doesn't beat Michigan this year. The guy wins 88% of his games. Like, it's crazy the level of expectations here. So with that said, it would do USC and Lincoln Riley a whole lot of good if they came out and just started flamethrowing with that offense out there right out of the gate against LSU.
And then UCLA, I know you probably paid attention, even though you weren't there, to the weird opening statement to Deshaun Foster. Do you take anything from that? I mean, I didn't know who the guy was as of yesterday.
Really good dude. I've interviewed. I know him enough where I've talked to him a bunch of times. Really great guy, and just pros. I mean, he's good in front. He's usually fantastic in front of the media. He'll take this and run. It really doesn't matter. And compared to most head coaches, even with the freeze, that's probably as interesting as it gets when it comes to media day coaching things. So, it's fine. It doesn't matter. The bigger problem with Deshaun Foster, by the way, I've already acknowledged that I'm going to say Deshaun Watson every other time. I keep making that mistake, but Deshaun Foster, he's just new. He just hasn't done this before. He's been a running backs coach. He is a former UCLA running back, and he's got good parts around him. He's got good pieces in place, but there is going to be that learning curve for a brand new head coach, not just at a place, but just never having done this before. So this is really one of those instances where give him a couple years. He's going to be great on the recruiting trail. He's going to sell UCLA. He gets the program. He gets the ins and outs of it. That is one of those programs that should be a lot better than it already is. And he gets that more than anyone. So whatever on the freeze. I mean, I felt bad for him because again, he's a really good guy, and you don't want to see him. It was kind of like dunking on him all over the place. It's just look, if it's a made man like I don't know, like a Lincoln Riley or a Dabo or a Kirby Smart, then it's kind of funny. But for a guy who's just getting started out, it's like let's give the guy a chance here.
I was shocked when LSU went out there a few years ago. LSU, UCLA, season opener, Chip Kelly's the coach. They ran a promotion at UCLA that anyone who goes to high school in California can come to the game for free. That was so eye-opening to me as a guy who spent his entire life in the southeastern part of the United States. Like, that to me is such a red flag. Like, how good is that job, and what's the ceiling at UCLA? You said they should be better in a new conference now. I mean, can they create relevance?
All due respect, everyone kind of forgets in California they have stuff to do.
Yes, I understand.
Like the SEC just means more, because most of these programs aren't near an NFL franchise or anything. So but with that said, it's a bad place for football unless you win. If you're winning there, everyone will go. But the problem is the Rose Bowl is 45-minute drive if there's traffic, maybe half an hour from as awesome as the Rose Bowl is, it's not convenient or conducive to a major campus environment like there is on Westwood, whereas USC, the stadium's right there on the campus. And there's just not the interest there. It is a tough program. And plus, let's say you do get like 45,000 people to show up. It still looks like the place is empty because it half is. But it is a tough place just to kind of generate interest until they get good. But I'm old enough to remember when UCLA did have a lot of really good teams, and that place was pretty fun to be around. So it is a tough job, but again, you're in LA. Every day is 74 degrees. Everyone wants to go to UCLA, and it's got a 3% acceptance rate now. It's turned into an Ivy League school. Perfect weather, all the things you see from He Got Game. That's where they filmed half of it. That's where it all applies. It should be an easy place to recruit, and they just, for whatever reason, can't do it.
We'll see the Bruins in Tiger Stadium coming up in September. Pete, we'll do it again before the season starts. Thanks for some time.
Yeah, have a good one.
Pete Futek, college football news. If you're looking for previews from all the teams around the country, Pete's got great previews up at College Football News for a lot of teams. I did a lot of look into his stuff, getting ready for SEC Media Days, kind of looking around at people's thoughts on teams around the Southeastern Conference. That's a look at the Big Ten as well. So we'll do Saints for the next 30 minutes. Luke Johnson in 15 minutes from Irvine coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Robbie Bolton, almost 20 years as a physical therapist at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports right here in Baton Rouge. They're on Starring near Highland Road. If you're active, whether you're an 8-year-old youth athlete or a 70-year-old that's trying to get back out on the golf course, Robbie Bolton can help you. He will help you. As he says, if I see you once, I will see you forever. Folks like Kevin Gosman, Austin Nola, Mikey Matuk, lots of former Tigers have trusted their bodies, their physical fitness with the folks over at Evolve Physical Therapy, and specifically Robbie Bolton. They're hands-on in their physical therapy technique. They're going to be with you for the entire appointment. They're going to be helping you through the exercises. They're going to be monitoring you. They can do the isokinetic testing to test how well your strength is coming back, and they're going to get you back to being your active self. You can check them out online, evolvept.com. Stop by Starring near Highland Road. Look, it's soft tissue manipulation, dry needling, cupping, scraping. All of that can be done. As Robbie told me, it's like, why would you go pay someone to stretch you out, pay them in cash, when you could use your insurance and go to a physical therapist to get that kind of stuff done? Whether you've been injured in an accident or you slept wrong and can't get rid of the pain, Robbie Bolton and the team at Evolve Physical Therapy can help you out. It's Evolve Physical Therapy at evolvept.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
There's nothing chill about a hot, sweaty line. Unless you add Mountain Cold Refreshment. Coors Light. Choose chill.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com. Oh, by the way, we do shutters too.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644.
On Friday's OTB to get you ready for the weekend. We'll have a little day 2 recap of Saints training camp. Some news leaking out of the massive Bayou Splash recruiting weekend. Off the bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
We'll go out to Irvine in 10 minutes for Luke Johnson. Just some news and notes from today that I've gleaned from Saints camp via the Twitterscape. Injury today in day 2 of Saints camp. Trajan Jeffcoat, who the Saints brought in, played his college ball at Arkansas and Missouri, defensive end. Guy that, if you follow the SEC pretty closely, you're familiar with because he was a pretty good player in the Southeastern Conference. He was carted off with an elbow injury. Apparently, Jeffcoat was down for a significant amount of time and was obviously in some pain. That's really difficult for him. Saints are looking for guys who can rush the passer. And you've got Chase Young on a 1-year deal, and you're hoping Isaiah Foskey comes along to go with Granderson and Cam Jordan and that crew. I don't know that Jeffcoat was likely to make the team, but certainly a guy that has some skins on the wall from a college perspective, and we'll see how quickly he's able to get back in camp, if he's able to get back in this camp. The big injury news from yesterday, of course, was Kendre Miller leaving practice, and Dennis Allen was obviously disappointed in that. We played the soundbite for you. If you listened to Off the Bench this morning, you heard the soundbite. If you listened to Hanny's show live at lunch, you heard the soundbite. Saying, look, that's a player that's got to stay out of the training room. And he has not stayed out of the training room. He was in it most of last year and went right back in it after one day in camp yesterday. And he was not out at practice today. So the question becomes okay, if Kendre Miller becomes a casualty of this camp and he does not make the team, which is no guarantee, where did the Saints go? And you understand that Alvin Kamara and Jamal Williams are there and that they're very likely to make the team. Kamara doesn't make the team, and it appears today that answer was Jordan Mims, running back who's in his second season. He was an undrafted free agent of the Buffalo Bills, played pretty well in the preseason, didn't quite make the roster. Saints scooped him up. He spent the most of the year on the practice squad last year in New Orleans, and he was going through the reps third today as a running back. Mims hails from Fresno State. He was a teammate of Jake Haener at Fresno State. And you kind of look at him and go, okay, maybe that's a guy that you can plug in. I talked about this yesterday, and I'll go right back to it. You can find another running back pretty quick. You really can find another running back pretty quick. If you've got a left tackle, an edge rusher, those guys are tough to find. Quarterback, tough to find. Running back, I can go find one of those. And you're talking about the Saints who scooped Mims up off the practice squad of the Bucs last year. They've had success with some of these guys over the years. Of course, Pierre Thomas is the most notable in that line. But there have been a lot of guys the Saints have found one way or another that have been productive running backs in the NFL. And I can promise you this about Kendre Miller. He's not going to be productive if he keeps getting hurt. It's not rocket science here. And you understand that NFL coaches are kind of desensitized to injuries. They happen so frequently at every position, and you just got to find the next guy. And if there's a guy on your roster that you can't count on being healthy, they will move on quickly, especially if there's not a significant financial impact in doing so. You've got a guy that's making a ton of money. Well, yeah, you got to figure it out and make it work. But Kendre Miller, where he was taken in the draft, they can find room to move him out. Peyton Turner's knocking on that door, and he's gotten a longer leash than Kendre Miller here because Peyton Turner is a freakishly athletic defensive lineman. There aren't as many of those. Tougher to find. You see flashes from Peyton Turner that are intoxicating. You're like, okay, I got to try to make this work. With Kendre Miller, I'm not seeing flashes. I'm not seeing anything. I'm seeing a guy who doesn't stay healthy. So that's kind of the big news from Saints camp today. Kendre Miller once again held out, and Jordan Mims taking those reps from Kendre Miller. Backup quarterback, there hasn't been a lot of separation, as you would expect. I'm not expecting a backup quarterback to be named in July. I'm not even reaching at that star. But apparently Spencer Rattler was kind of going through first, Jake Haener second, and that's something that I talked about back on Tuesday's show, saying, that's one of the things that I'm kind of interested in camp. Who's the backup? The Saints have used their backup quarterback a good bit over the last 4 or 5 years. Taysom and Teddy were being used a lot for Drew at the end. Clearly, Jameis Winston goes down, and Andy Dalton's got to come in. Ian Book even got to start. You're going back into weird times there. Last year, Derek Carr couldn't play for a bit, and Jameis Winston had to come in. Like, the Saints have used their backup quarterback a good bit after a long time where Drew Brees was so durable and so available, and they've had to dip into that well. And I think it's kind of important to see who's that next guy. I'm not willing to sit here and tell you that I think that one of those two guys is going to be the face of the franchise at some point, that I've got hopes that you've got a Pro Bowl quarterback there. Everybody can't be Brock Purdy. Everybody can't be Dak Prescott. But I'm curious to see who kind of pulls ahead, and I feel like we'll get a little bit of that, and we'll certainly see those guys in a lot of action in the preseason games, so you don't figure that Derek Carr is going to play very much. There were a couple of interceptions today. Paulson Adebo got Derek Carr today on a tipped ball. Yesterday we saw that Demario Davis got Derek Carr early in practice, and Roderick Teamer had a pick on Jake Haener today, according to John Hendricks. And I want to get John Hendricks on here maybe next week at some point because I think some of the things that he's brought to Twitter have been interesting. But he's mentioned Willie Gay twice now in the last 2 days as a guy that's really coming on and having a nice start to camp. And you kind of expect that. Still very much a young player, a guy that you expect to get a lot of reps because you're looking at DeMario and Werner, and he's next up. And those three guys are healthy. That's a pretty good linebacker squad for New Orleans. And so at the beginning of the show, I talked about the fact that the Saints don't have to be the third-ranked offense in the NFL. Derek Carr doesn't have to be second in the league in pass efficiency for this team to win some games. It's not the case. The defense is going to have to carry the heavier workload. The offense has just got to be pretty average. And for the defense to carry its workload, Demario Davis is going to have to keep playing at an all-pro level. Pete Werner's going to have to stay healthy and continue to improve. And Willie Gay looks like he could be a stalwart on this team as well at that linebacker unit, which may be a strength of the Saints defense. And you know how I feel about the Saints defensive back. I think that's in really good shape. So that's kind of the news and notes that I've gleaned today from Twitter. I'm curious to see what Luke has seen the last 2 days. Curious to hear what Luke heard today from the folks that met with the media. Dennis Allen certainly being one. And we'll continue to pick his brain from over in Irvine, California, where I believe the high today is 77 degrees. So we'll chat with Luke about that and all things Saints when we come back on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Every shot, every goal, ESPN Bet has fans covered for the biggest moments on the road to a championship. The exclusive sportsbook of ESPN is the only place to find special offers and promotions from your favorite ESPN shows and personalities throughout the summer months. New users can get a bet reset up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. So download ESPN Bet today. What a play. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 in partnership with the Bears Lake Charles. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Érase una vez un Infinity, diseñado para despertar tu imaginación y desafiarte a soñar, con 3 lujosas filas de asientos. El totalmente nuevo Infinity QX80 de 3 filas.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency. The light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
The best kept.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR. Day 2 of Saints training camp. Ross Jackson has our camp report, and 2 more big-time prospects committed to being at the Bayou Splash this weekend. We'll talk about it 3 to 6. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You are listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Well, breaking news, a no-hitter today in Major League Baseball. Dylan Cease throws a no-no for the San Diego Padres against the Washington Nationals. The Cubs traded Dylan Cease away for Jose Quintana. That was in 2018, I believe. No, that's not right. 2000.
Oh, I thought you were saying he was on your fantasy baseball team.
He is on my fantasy baseball team. I think it was 2017.
That was
the Cubs traded. They traded.
No, I thought
Dylan
that was
Cease and.
Was that 2017 or?
It was not 16.
Okay, no.
It was 17 for sure. It was when they beat the Nationals.
Oh yeah, they traded Dylan Cease and
the big right-handed hitter who couldn't play the outfield, Eloy Jimenez.
Yeah, Eloy Jimenez.
Those two guys for Jose Quintana. No,
he
Eloy
played for the White
Sox.
Sox. Yeah, he played for the White Sox.
They traded them both to the White Sox for Jose Quintana. That did not work.
They were both pretty good.
Did not work. Baseball sucks anyway. Cubs are in last. The Brewers are in first, and Luke likes the Brewers, so we'll talk to him now. Luke, how are you?
I mean, I'm pretty good after the Brewers took 2 out of 3 from your Cubbies.
Shut up!
I feel good about that.
We're going to start trading all of our players because we're in last place, even though we were supposed to be good. It's a very sad, sad thing. All right, let's talk some football. I'll leave it open to you. There have been a lot of storylines that we've gotten back here in South Louisiana, but you've watched them practice twice. You've listened to a lot of sound bites and interviews. What's been the biggest thing for you through 2 days?
I think the biggest thing is really that I think they're kind of trying to do some rediscovery of who they are as a football team. And we kind of talked a little bit about this at the end of the 2023 season. All the talk about culture, all the talk about the disappointment and missing the playoffs 3 straight years. I think these guys have they've kind of internalized some of that. They understand that the expectations are low for them. They understand that the community that they play for is kind of irritated by them, or by the way they've really struggled the last couple of years. I think they're taking it to heart. Will that actually result in them being good? I mean, time will tell. But I think last year specifically was really a wake-up call for a lot of these guys, and I think they're coming into training camp with the right mindset.
Derek Carr mentioned that he thought it'd be an easy transition, 10 years in the league. I'll just pick up right where I left off, and that it was a little more difficult than he had estimated. I talked about his last 5 games, which were actually very good, and whether or not that was a result of him being more comfortable or just being healthier, probably a mix of both. But how do you read that?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think some of his worst games of the year came directly following games where he left with injury. We're talking about significant injuries. The shoulder injury he suffered against Green Bay, a lot of players missed time with that sort of injury. He was back the next week, and he was terrible against Tampa. Concussions are injuries that players typically miss a week or two from. He didn't miss time with either of those two injuries, and he was pretty bad in the games afterwards. And I think that shoulder injury really stuck with him throughout the year. And by the end of the year, he was feeling a little bit better, and we kind of saw the play. But I also think that they understood what worked for him better at the end of the year. And he wasn't trying to force the ball to Michael Thomas to make him happy. They were running a lot of play action. They were saying, "Hey, Chris Olave, you're our number one. Like, go out there and make plays for us." I think it all ran a lot smoother. And I think that the new offense that they're bringing in is taking a lot off of Derek's plate, to where it's not going to be all totally incumbent on him to get everybody in the right spot and to make all the right decisions. They're going to remove a lot of that from him, and have like kind of this scheme, and the coaches be the ones who are kind of driving this thing. So I think there's a lot of things that make me feel positive about where he is right now. It's just how good can that be? I think that's the real question.
Let's talk running back. Two different storylines. Alvin Kamara met with the media yesterday and was very forthcoming for about 15 minutes. And then Kendre Miller hasn't practiced since early in practice yesterday. Let's go with Kamara first. What did you learn from him yesterday, and how do you think that resolved itself?
Well, I was really surprised he was there. I guess in hindsight, Alvin Kamara is not really the kind of guy who's going to just pony up $50,000 a day to hold out, especially because he's, it's not like he's going to be signing a $30 million a year contract. Maybe it makes a lot of sense that he's there. But once he got out there, he looks like Alvin Kamara, which is I think still a good thing, and he still talks like Alvin Kamara, which is very much a good thing for me, because it's like he's very blunt, and he's very honest, or at least he's appearing honest. He just opened up to us about everything that he's looking for, and why he left, and he's like, I will probably be here even if I don't get a new contract. Even though he was pressed on that and he kind of walked it back a little bit, it's that first answer is probably the truth here, the reality of it. I think he's totally within his right to be like, hey, everybody knows I'm not playing for $29 million under the salary cap next year. I have no guaranteed money. He's totally within his right to say, I would like to be here long term. I like being in New Orleans. I want to retire in New Orleans. Let's get something done. It's just, we don't know exactly what that looks like from his perspective. And I think it's pretty clear from the Saints' perspective that they don't think what he wants is what he's worth. So I'm interested to see if they're going to close that gap between now and the start of the season.
Kendre Miller was thought to kind of maybe be the heir apparent to Alvin Kamara, kind of similar in style, if not quite as explosive. And all of a sudden he missed a lot of time as a rookie, and he didn't get through one practice. And Dennis Allen seemed a little cranky about that, no?
Yeah. I think it's pretty striking when you have the head coach of a football team that just took a guy 71st overall last year, saying you're not going to make the team in the training room. I don't necessarily believe that Kendre Miller's roster spot is up for grabs, but it is pretty striking when the head coach just goes out and says hey, what the hell, man, you got to stay healthy. Kendre Miller's far from the only player on the roster who's dealt with injury, but it's been really frustrating watching this because you can see the potential there. It wasn't just in the last game last year. I mean, he was awesome in that game, but you've seen it kind of throughout. Whenever he has been healthy, that he can be a really good player. It's just that he hasn't been. He wasn't healthy when they drafted him. So it was incredibly frustrating to be out there on the Saints practice field, and they are not 3 minutes into their first individual period, and he's walking off with the trainer. I get to a degree Dennis Allen's frustration over the thing.
Anything else that you've noticed kind of on the field? We've seen a lot of the quotes and seen a lot of the sound that y'all have captured out there, but has anything on the field stuck out? I know it's really early.
Yeah, everything that they've done so far has been really, really basic. I don't even think they've lined up once in their sub defense, which is what they typically play in, right? They've done a lot of two tight ends, run heavy stuff. A lot of their passing game has been really like short, quick passing game. So like just from that standpoint, like I don't think anything's really stood out. The practices have been really short, but I think you can see like the level of detail from the coaching staff and the amount of time like Clint Kubiak spends with the quarterbacks in particular. Getting everything exactly the way he wants it. It's different. Like it's a completely different feel from especially the offensive side of the ball than what we've seen, what we've all been used to here. So I'm just really like interested to see how that plays out because different for different sake isn't always a good thing, but I do think that this is going to be a positive change for them.
Moving forward, what's kind of the schedule look like the rest of the week as far as when they put pads on and all that kind of stuff? I know that it's a lot of walking through right now.
Yeah, I think they have an off day Sunday, and then their first day of pads is Monday. So we'll probably have like another couple like short practices, and not really a whole lot of like competitive stuff. Like they did 7-on-7 for the first time today. We only did like 8 or 9 reps of it. They'll build up to where they're doing like 20, 25 reps of the 7-on-7, and they'll have like whole drives with 11-on-11. I feel like probably when pads come on Monday, we'll start seeing a little bit more of that. They're kind of, I think the schedule right now is like they practice like 5 straight days and they have an off day. And then, you start building in the preseason games and go from there.
All right, Luke, we'll be catching up with you from out in Southern California. Enjoy the weather, enjoy the football, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good, man. Thanks.
He's Luke Johnson covering the Saints out in Irvine, California. We'll be talking Saints every single day. If you're looking for Saints content, you can always find it on our YouTube channel, Hunt on Saints. It's all Saints all the time, and it's going to be cut down into your little 10, 12-minute segments there, so you don't have to scroll through an entire 2-hour show to get there. You can just find it right there and go ahead and indulge in your Saints coverage as they are underway out there in Irvine. Not a ton on the field, as Luke mentioned, and I think really what you're watching for right now is injuries day to day, and then what sound bites come out of Saints camp before they put the pads on next week, and I think we'll really start to see who's winning what reps and what Isaiah Foskey or Trevor Penning looks like, and is Peyton Turner available, and who's actually taking the backup quarterback reps, and some of those things will become more apparent, I think, next week as we really get into it. And, of course, LSU reports next week on Thursday as well, so we'll have a lot to talk about once that all fires up. Rouse's brings you our Thursday shows each and every week. They're the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. You're looking to get your weekend grocery shopping done. Highly, highly suggest checking out Rouse's. Get the Rouse's app. It makes things so easy. On the Rouse's app, you can do your grocery shopping in the palm of your hand. Have your personal shopper go do it. Walk it right out to you in the pickup line. You don't have to go in if you don't have the time. Rouse's makes everything easy, and they got wonderful, wonderful quality products throughout that grocery store, whether it's the butcher shop in the back with all the burgers, the pork chops, the steaks, ribeyes, fillets. Got all that covered. They got your wine and spirits as well. They got a great seafood section as well. Plus, if you're looking to stop by and grab lunch or breakfast, hot bar right there for lunch and breakfast as well. So get on by any Rouse's near you along the Gulf Coast, but certainly here in South Louisiana and in Baton Rouge. New location on Florida Boulevard, as well as Burbank and Lee, where the Palmers frequent for our weekly grocery stops. So Rouse's brings you our Thursday shows each and every week. We'll take a time out, come back and close things up. It's a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical. Neil and Melissa have been running Boudreaux's for 40 years down there in the 985. But got a 225 location right here in Gonzales as well. Give them a call, 985-397-1562. 985-397-1562. Your certified Generac home standby generator dealer, a premier Generac dealer. That means they're in the top 3% nationwide. They've been doing this for 40 years. They know what they're doing. And I don't have to tell you about some additional fee that you can pay to make sure you get quality customer service, join this club or that. That's not how it works at Boudreaux's Electrical. You're a customer at Boudreaux's Electrical, they're going to give you the highest level in customer service. They're going to send a full-time Boudreaux's Electrical employee out to install your generator, and they're going to do that with the highest quality piping, tubing, copper wiring. And they're going to do most of that installation underground so that it looks good outside your house, as well as being able to function and light up your house and cool your house in the event of a power outage. They're also going to monitor your generator 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to make sure if something does go wrong, they know about it, they'll notify you about it, come out and fix it so that when your power does go out, generator flips on and you don't have to worry about those pesky power outages, whether it's an afternoon shower like we're having every single day right now in the summer, or hurricane season, which we always know right now is here, but then another one's always right around the corner. So go ahead and call my friends at Boudreaux's Electric, 985-397-1562, or check them out online, boudreauxelectrical.com.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, The Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Musco.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered.
On Friday's OTB. To get you ready for the weekend, we'll have a little day 2 recap of Saints training camp. Some news leaking out of the massive Bayou Splash recruiting weekend. Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
Failure happens to us all, but it's how champions evolve. The only thing that matters from a loss is if you get back up when you fall. You gotta get up. Failure happens to us all.
Comedian, producer, and actor Joe Gatto is hitting the road on his Let's Get Into It tour, and 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge is giving you a chance to see him live Friday, November 15th at the Raising Cane's River Center. Register to win tickets today at 1045ESPN.com, and we've got the MLB on ESPN Radio. The classic rivalry, Red Sox and Yankees, that will be Saturday night at 6:15, and then again Sunday night at 6 p.m. right here on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You are listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
All right, closing up shop here on a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Fired up for tomorrow's show. We'll have the latest from Saints camp. Preston Guy talking some LSU football. He tigerbait.com. And we're also going to talk USC football with Mark Colkin. He covers the Trojans for wearesc.com. Of course, the Trojans took their time at Media Day yesterday. I just wanted to get Mark's thoughts as we get closer to camp here for the Trojans. So probably check in a couple times throughout camp. I want to get things kick-started there as we get ready for the opener out in Vegas with Mark Colkin. So we'll do that tomorrow. Very much looking forward to that. And the Olympics tomorrow, the opening ceremonies, which we'll briefly talk about. I'll probably put that at the back end of hour number 1 for a little 5-minute discussion because I kind of like the Olympics. We'll talk about that when the time comes tomorrow. But for now, it's time for Take It or Leave It.
All righty, first one here, Alvin Kamara turns 29 today. Happy birthday, Mr. Kamara. As of right now, he's the franchise leader in rushing touchdowns, third in rushing yards, and top 10 in receiving yards. Is he the greatest Saints running back of all time? Take it or leave it.
I'll leave it. I still would go Deuce there. I know Mark Ingram's the all-time yardage leader and the all-time touchdowns leader, but I'm still going to go with Deuce there. And you've got some guys who have been pretty accomplished. Like Reggie Bush was really exciting, but it was only 4 years. Dalton Hilliard was great as well. He ran for, I think, over 4,000 yards for the Saints. It was fantastic. George Rogers was pretty good for his time in New Orleans. But to me, I would go with Deuce. But I'll defer to the Saints guy here on the set. Who do you think is the top Saints running back of all time?
It's between Deuce and Kamara. I mean,
no Ingram?
Too many fumbles. Too many fumbles. Too many fumbles. And when he ran out of bounds against
it was against Tampa. That was tough.
Tampa, like that's a lot, Mark. That's a lot.
He is exclusively referred to in my group text that involves a lot of Saints fans as Gump Ingram. Yes. He's never been their favorite player. I know Charles Handegriff didn't like the fact that the Saints traded up to get Ingram, but he is the franchise's all-time leader in rushing and touchdowns. But I'll still take Deuce.
Yeah, I take Deuce as well. Moving on, Drew Brees comes in at number 15 on ESPN's top 25 NFL players since 2000. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I think that's fair. I mean, you're going to put Brady in front of him. You're going to put Manning in front of him. I'm curious. I haven't seen the list.
Well, I got you.
Is Mahomes in front of him?
Yeah. So number 1, Brady. 2, Mahomes. 3.
Mahomes is 2. Holy cow.
Mahomes is 2. Aaron Donald 3. Peyton Manning 4. Randy Moss 5.
Yeah.
Calvin Johnson 6. J.J. Watt 7.
Got to get Aaron Donald in here at some point.
No, he was number 3.
Okay.
Yeah, Aaron Donald was 3. J.J. Watt is 7. Ray Lewis is 8. Aaron Rodgers is 9. Revis 10. Ed Reed 11. Charles Woodson 12. Gronkowski 13. Travis Kelce at 14. And Mr. Drew Brees at 15.
Gronkowski at 13 is
I'm sorry,
crazy
Drew
to me.
Brees is a better NFL player than Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
He just is. I think Travis Kelce's had a great career. He's one of the best tight ends ever. That's fine. Drew Brees is a better NFL player than Travis Kelce.
Well, yeah. I was more so Gronkowski. It's kind of crazy that Gronkowski is that high. I mean,
yeah,
he was a different. He had a huge impact. But
if Rob Gronkowski played for the Jets,
we wouldn't even talk about
or the Lions, you just wouldn't even mention him. And same thing goes for Kelce. If he'd spent his entire career catching balls for Kyler Murray, like no one would say anything. Brees had to make all that happen. And oh, by the way, the best player that ever played with Drew Brees pre Jimmy Graham was Colston.
Yeah.
He never even made a Pro Bowl. Like Brees
he probably
needs to be bumped up.
Brees should be higher for sure. All right, last one here. The Cubs have lost both their series since the All-Star break, and they're in last in the NL Central, and they're done. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it.
You suck.
I'm
not gonna press the button.
They're done.
No, they're not.
How do you suggest a team that cannot score, that is in last place, is going to fix this? After being this since March.
Cody Bellinger is hurt. He's gonna come back. That's gonna give him a little shot in the arm, and the other guys, I can't imagine that there's any way.
They're in last.
I know there's still a lot of season left, Hunt.
There's not. We're after the All-Star break. It's August. There's 2 months left. They're in last.
It's okay. It's still a tight.
There's a line.
They're still in the wild
Angels
card
in the
race.
outfield.
What's the wild card race?
Angels in the outfield.
What's the wild card race?
The wild card, they're like 6 teams behind and like 4.5 games.
Yeah, but
out.
it's still close.
You have to start trading them, all of them now.
No.
Nobody on this roster anybody wants that's like Mark Leiter. The question is, are they going to trade Tyone because he's got 3 years of control on his deal? They stink. This is not working. Maybe it works when Matt Shaw and Owen Casey get up from Double and Triple A. and we'll see this iteration, this team is done. They never score. Them and the White Sox are the only freaking teams in the league that haven't scored 10 runs this week since the All-Star game. They suck out loud.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
They don't, Hunt.
What's the end result of this season going to be?
I think they're going to make the wild card.
You're an idiot.
Okay, that's fine. I believe in the team, Hunt. I'm not giving up.
Are you starting the funeral?
I will watch the team.
Are you starting the funeral?
It's over.
Wow.
Bury the casket. Throw the dirt on it. Wow. They're toast.
Wow. All right, we're going to remember
this. They have one of the best starting pitching staffs in the league, and they can't win games.
They've scored more runs than the Braves, who are currently leading the wild card, so they can score at least more runs than them.
The Braves don't have Acuna and don't have Albies. They're playing with half their team. And they're still better than the Cubs. It's an embarrassment. Playing in a division of poor teams that can't spend any money, can't beat anybody. Last place.
It's not over yet, Hunt.
It's not over yet. I will watch tomorrow, and I will be sad again and again and again. It's a curse. Another curse. Broke one curse in 16 years, another curse. Missed any of the show today, catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google. Thanks to Pete Butek talking Big Ten, Luke Johnson talking about the Saints. There's something else in there, but you can go back and catch it on demand. We're back tomorrow. Matt's going to drive you home on AFR. It's 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.